In his first television interview since announcing he would not run for re-election, Congressman Ted Deutch spoke earlier today to CBS4's Jim DeFede.
He talked about giving up his House seat to become the CEO of the American Jewish Committee.
Why the decision to leave Congress?
Well, this is not something that I had planned. I was approached by AJC, which is a global Jewish advocacy organization that fights anti-Semitism and defends Israel's rightful place in the world. And in conversations with them, I realized that with the global platform that they have with offices all around the world, that I'd be able to work full-time on issues that I'm really passionate about. And I think may be able in some ways to have even greater impact on these issues than I do and that I've had as a member of Congress. So it was a really hard decision because I'm so proud to represent the people of South Florida, and it's an incredible, incredible honor. But this seemed like a unique opportunity, and that's what's leading to this transition.
What does that say that you think you might be more effective, have more influence outside of Congress than as a member of Congress?
Well, I'm not talking about influencing Congress. I mean, I feel really I'm proud of what I've done on these issues and so many others. As a member of Congress, I've worked really hard to try to bring people together and be effective in representing my constituents. It's really just the opportunity to do this full time on some very specific issues at a time when the challenges to the Jewish community here and around the world are growing, when there is rising anti-Semitism, when the hostage situation in Texas just recently is the one that comes to mind. But there's been violence against the American Jewish community. We've seen threats around the world. Israel's always under attack, both physically and by those who wish to delegitimize it. So this is a chance to really work here and in countries around the world to address these critically important issues.
There are some who would think that your decision is based in part because the Democrats are likely to lose the House, and so you'll end up being in the minority. Any truth to that?
No, it's politics. I've served in the majority now. I'm the chairman of the Ethics Committee. I chair the Middle East Subcommittee. I've served in the minority before as the ranking member of the Middle East Subcommittee and the Ethics Committee. That's just what happens in Congress. And I'm proud of what I've been able to do both in the majority and the minority. This isn't about fleeing Congress, running away from Congress. This is really an opportunity to run to something that's unique, and that's why I've decided to do that.
Well, let me ask you this: has there been some disillusionment, though, with Congress, with the way you view Congress, the way you view the way Congress behaves? I mean, clearly there's a big difference between the Congress you entered in 2010 and the Congress that you'll leave later this year.
I'm not disillusioned. Look, there have been changes. I don't think we can kid ourselves about that. It is the level of partisanship, the attacks ultimately on our democracy, which we saw on January 6th. These are real challenges, and it's been tough. But I think we've risen to the challenge. We need to continue to look for ways to come together and marginalize those extreme voices that are trying to prevent Congress from working. So it's not that I'm disillusioned. I'm forever hopeful. I wouldn't have gotten into politics to begin with if I weren't optimistic. And I think we'll get through this. But no doubt there's some strain on the system right now, and I'm certainly going to spend the next 7 months continuing to try to address that, and then going forward, I think we all have a stake in making sure that our Congress and our government work effectively on behalf of the American people.
Let's turn to Ukraine for a second. Talk to me about where you see the situation in Ukraine today and what the United States should be doing that they are not already doing.
Let me start with what the United States is doing, and I think that's really important. This is an issue, Jim, where my God, Russia is violating the territorial integrity, the sovereignty of another country, violating international law. This should not be a political issue. And what we saw in Munich at the security conference is the United States standing firmly with our NATO allies the EU, those countries around the world who understand that you just cannot sit back and allow what Putin is doing to take place. And so the sanctions that were put in place, multilateral sanctions, are really important. But beyond that, we've seen the follow-on. We've seen businesses, just yesterday, the number of businesses who have announced that they're not going to have anything to do with Russia anymore. The impact that this is having on the Russian economy. We're not sending troops into Ukraine, and I think that's the right approach. And I think people, by and large, agree with that. But we can have the toughest possible sanctions. Two things could happen, Jim. One, this is going to have a really significant impact on the Russian people, and they're not going to blame the United States. They're not going to blame EU. They're going to blame Vladimir Putin. But as we know, he probably doesn't care. But here's what he does care about. When the oligarchs and the people that he's close to can no longer travel anywhere outside of Russia, when their money that they're hiding in countries around the world starts to be shut off from them, that's the kind of pressure that we really need to ramp up in order to bring some change here.
All right, Congressman Ted Deutch. You can always watch more of Jim's interviews on Facing South Florida, which airs Sundays at 8 in the morning.